The day the U.S. Army attacked American veterans, 1932. The promise America couldn't keep. Imagine surviving one of the deadliest wars in human history. You leave your home, travel across the world, and fight in the trenches of Europe during World War I. You watch friends and fellow soldiers disappear beside you. You experience things most people will never understand. Then, somehow, you survive. You return home expecting a new beginning. But instead of prosperity, you find uncertainty. Jobs are disappearing, businesses are closing, families are struggling, and for thousands of American veterans, the battle did not end when they returned home. It simply moved to a different battlefield. This is the story of the Bonus Army, a forgotten moment in American history when thousands of veterans marched peacefully on Washington, D.C., asking their government for help. And the response they received would shock the entire nation. The summer of 1932 became one of the most controversial moments of the Great Depression. More than 20,000 veterans, along with their families, gathered in the nation's capital. They built a massive temporary community. They constructed wooden shelters. They created kitchens. They organized sanitation systems. They even created rules to maintain order. They called themselves the Bonus Expeditionary Force, but newspapers gave them another name, the Bonus Army. At first, many Americans supported them. After all, these were not ordinary protesters. They were soldiers who had served their country. Many had fought in the First World War. Many had been wounded. Many had watched friends sacrifice everything. Now, years later, they were asking for something they believed they had already earned. To understand why they came to Washington, we have to go back more than a decade. Back to the end of World War I. When America entered the war in 1917, millions of young men were called to serve. Over 4 million Americans would eventually wear the uniform. More than 100,000 would never return home. Those who did return faced a difficult transition. During the war, many soldiers received modest military pay. At the same time, workers in American factories were earning higher wages because of the enormous demand for weapons, supplies, and equipment. Many veterans felt they had sacrificed financially while serving their country. They believed the government should recognize that sacrifice. Congress agreed. In 1924, lawmakers passed the World War Adjusted Compensation Act. The law created a bonus program for veterans. The amount each veteran received depended on their service. Those who served overseas would receive more. The idea was simple. The government would provide additional compensation to recognize the sacrifices veterans made during the war. However, there was a problem. The veterans would not receive the money immediately. Instead, they received certificates that could be redeemed in 1945. For many Americans, waiting 20 years seemed reasonable. The country was experiencing one of the strongest economic periods in its history. The 1920s were known as the Roaring Twenties. Factories were expanding. Cities were growing. New technologies were changing everyday life. Cars became common. Radio brought entertainment into millions of homes. The stock market seemed unstoppable. Many people believed America's prosperity would continue forever. But underneath the optimism, problems were growing. Income inequality was increasing. Banks were taking risky actions. And the economy was built on a fragile foundation. Then, in October of 1929, everything changed. The stock market crashed. Millions of dollars disappeared in a matter of days. Banks began failing. Businesses closed. People who believed they were financially secure suddenly found themselves with nothing. The Great Depression had begun. By 1932, the situation had become desperate. Around 1 out of every 4 American workers was unemployed. Families searched for work that didn't exist. Bread lines stretched through city streets. People sold their belongings just to afford basic necessities. For many veterans, the situation was especially painful. They had served their country during its greatest time of need. Now they were struggling to survive. Many veterans looked at the bonus certificates they had received years earlier. The government had already promised them this money. The only question was why they had to wait another 13 years. One veteran named Walter W. Waters believed there was a solution. He argued that the government should pay the bonus immediately. His idea spread quickly. Veterans across the country began organizing. They traveled by train. They walked along highways. Some even rode illegally on freight trains because they could not afford transportation. Their destination was Washington, D.C. Their mission was simple: convince Congress to approve early payment of the bonus. They were not planning a revolution. They were not trying to overthrow the government. They wanted lawmakers to listen. As thousands of veterans arrived in the Capitol, they created something unusual: a city within a city. They built camps across Washington. The largest camp was located near the Anacostia Flats, across the river from the Capitol. Thousands of men, women, and children lived there. Despite their difficult circumstances, the camp was surprisingly organized. There were streets, there were leaders, there were rules. Veterans created kitchens to feed residents. They established medical services. They collected trash. They posted signs reminding everyone to remain peaceful. The camp became a symbol of a nation in crisis. These men had once marched across battlefields in Europe. Now they were marching through their own capital, hoping their government would remember them. But inside Washington, a political battle was beginning. Some members of Congress supported the veterans. They argued that paying the bonus would provide immediate relief to struggling families and stimulate the economy. Others disagreed. They believed the government could not afford the cost. President Herbert Hoover opposed early payment. He argued that the government had already made a commitment to pay the bonus in 1945. Changing that promise, he believed, would create financial problems the country could not handle. As the debate continued, the veterans remained in Washington. Weeks turned into months. The summer heat arrived, tensions increased, and eventually a decision would be made that would change how Americans viewed their government, their military, and the relationship between citizens and those who served them. Because soon, the United States Army would receive orders to remove the veterans from Washington. And the man chosen to lead that operation was one of the most famous soldiers in American history, General Douglas MacArthur.